Episode 2 of the Get 'em Onside Legends series. Last week, Craig Wing, and we just scale up the looking department a little bit higher, folks. This guy here has done, like Craig Wing, he's done everything. This guy here has, though, captained a premiership winning team. New South Wales representative, Australian representative, the boy from Dubbo, Andrew Bobcat Ryan. G'day.
G'day, mate. Great to be here. A genuine glamour boy of the game, they call me.
Mate, all those calendars, they were selling out when you were in it. Let's start with the Bobcat part. Why Bobcat?
Mate, a mate of ours, Luke O'Connor, grew up with him in Dubbo. We were playing in the under-20s team at Parra and just doing a video session one day, and he said, just yelled out, blurted out, "You're fat and square and slow, you look like a bobcat." Wow. And then they latched onto the animal as well with the squinty eyes and the furry forehead as well, so it's a good rap.
So what was the milestone game where the Bulldogs had a bobcat at Ackle, didn't they?
It was my last ever game, actually.
Was it?
My retirement game. So, organised some Bobcats on the field, and I thought, I've never done a post-try celebration before. I thought, if I score a try today, the plan was to go and step up into the Bobcat and sit there, and the boys might run around. That was the plan in my head. But then running at a furious pace after scoring a try, I thought, I could see the shutter was down, so I thought I can't step up in it, so I thought I'd just try and step on it, and then nearly broke my leg. And but anyway, it was good times.
Would have had to retire anyway. What is it about those milestones, the energy of a milestone? So, for example, recently Josh Papali'i breaks the all-time record for the Raiders, scores 2. Is there something about that day? You clearly had a big day out as well.
Yeah, definitely, and I think some clubs really celebrate them. You look at Craig Bellamy down at Melbourne; they've always, every single milestone, every player, like they always come out and perform well. And watching Big Papa kick a goal too, he nailed it the other day. It was impressive.
Who had Papa for 10 points? Well done there. Now, Andrew Bobcat Ryan, this resume is so decorated, so decorated. But let's go back to the start, Dubbo. Tell us about mum and dad and the upbringing and what life was like back in Dubbo those days.
Yeah, life was unreal in Dubbo, mate. Similar to yourself, growing up, sport was everything. I had 2 older brothers. And mum and dad still live in Dubbo now, and we get out there whenever we can. But it was just dead set sport our whole lives, and played a heap of different sports. I didn't actually sort of play league until I was under 14s. Really? Yeah, I didn't play. I played a fair bit of soccer and all other sports too, and then jumped over for league sort of under 14s. And
why? How'd that happen?
But we always were sort of a league family.
Yeah.
And both my brothers were already playing, and my older brother Tim, he sort of did something similar, actually. Played soccer right through and then sort of changed over about that time as well. And probably the worst time when you got all these massive humans, and I was shitting myself. But I was a fat little hooker in Dubbo.
A bobcat, some would say.
I was a little mini excavator, 14s, 15s, 16s. I was a hooker, and then big off season I moved over one position to the front row in under 18s.
Wow. So that very first season, I'm not sure if you remember the coach's name, but if you said to that coach, this guy is it's his first ever game, but just so you know, he's going to captain a team to a premiership. My hairs are standing up thinking about it. He'll play for New South Wales, play for Australia. What would they have said?
Mate, he would have been barely thinking you're not even going to be in this team, let alone doing all that stuff. But yeah, Cole Parks, he actually played first grade for Manly as well. So he was my coach, and his young bloke's a great friend as well. So we had, obviously there's been some special players come out of Dubbo, but just pinch yourself, to be able to think back to, I still remember running around and playing for St John's in junior footy out on those fields at Apex Oval, we've been able to play country games there, and we had a New South Wales training camp on my junior ground at Apex Oval. It just blows you away.
So tell me this then. So under 14s, and I actually love the diversity. So a lot of great kids. Tiger Woods fell into trouble, they say, because he just was so all into that one sport. Yep. Roger Federer, on the other hand, a very balanced career. He was playing all sorts of sports, ice hockey, all that, tennis, other sports as well. And it makes them far more measured. So I love that. And when I've been coaching young kids, the soccer players, the swimmers, they're very, very talented kids. When did you think, okay, well, this is probably a bit more than just a love of the game? When did you think, I'm actually pretty good at this?
I actually moved down to, we moved to Sydney. My brother signed at the Panthers, so we moved to Sydney for year 11. I went to school, McCarthy Catholic College out, and that year they brought all the boys, the Penrith boys there. So Craig Gower, Fred Peterson, all these boys went to school there, and I was sort of mainly playing second grade in that team most of the year, but we ended up making the Commonwealth Bank Cup final.
Versus who?
Parramatta.
Parramatta.
And I ended up playing with a lot of those boys, the Nath Kalises and all these boys. They pumped me. I didn't get on in the final. I didn't get a run. I played in the semi and stuff, but I didn't get a run in the final. But yeah, Maris beat us 24-0. So around that time, I started to go, making some teams, I suppose, and then we actually moved back to Dubbo for year 12. So then I sort of made the country Catholic schools team and ended up going away to a trip of Fiji at the end of that year, and met some blokes there. Then end up going on, and a lot of them played NRL as well. But that was probably around that moment you start to think, get picked for that side, and you start to sort of dream a little bit, but. I still remember going to, you were probably playing, mate, to be honest. I still remember going to these championships, schoolboys championships down in Para. It was like all of the CCC trials, I think it was. And, mate, I was shitting myself. I was coming off the bench for a southern country and going, what am I doing here? It was, I've had a few of them moments over my time. But
I actually played in one of those games, and you're bringing back haunting memories because I was the CCC fullback, or so I thought I was. And we're taking on a trial game against Parramatta Marist. Mick Vella, he goes berserk against the CCC team.
Yeah.
So one player has to come out, one has to go in. I was the player who got rissoled. And Billy Dow was the coach at the time. He said, mate, you're playing next year, you'll be fine. And I never went to school next year, so I never had that opportunity. But was it Craig Gower and the likes playing in that McCarthy team?
Yeah, Craig Gower. Gowie played quite a few of the boys. Ned Caddick, Fred Peterson, some of them boys went on to play some NRL. But Gowie was the half. He was mate, at that age, he was an absolute superstar, and pretty much was playing NRL the next year, basically. So, crazy to think.
So trivia that I've only thought of right now, McCarthy College, little humble college out at Emu Plains.
Emu Plains, yeah.
Emu Plains there, west of Penrith on your way up to the Blue Mountains. In 2003 and 2004, they produced the premiership winning captain, don't they? Gowie, and then you.
Yeah, well, a bit bizarre really. But, I don't know if... I wasn't really a mainstay of the team around there for McCarthy, but maybe mainly from the second grade. It's the McCarthy second grade side mainly.
So that's what I love about it, right? So my young bloke recently missed the team, and the wife was up in arms about it, and he may have had a case, may not have. Who knows? You get biased when you're a parent, but so many people reached out and they said that's the best thing that could happen to him. He missed a team that maybe he expected to be in, but you were a second grade player at a school side. At a school side. Do you think there's something in that about it is good to miss things and not have the dream run sometimes?
Yeah, mate, I totally think so. Not that you want to say you want to miss out on stuff, but it definitely, if you work it in the right way and that fire lights up for you, whatever motivation you need to try and I still remember I basically went to Parramatta 20s for an open trial really, and then I didn't make the Group 11 rep side, Possibles Probables team, the Dubbo rep side.
The local Group 11 side you did not make.
No, I've never represented Group 11.
You've never represented Group 11.
Nah.
So the Dubbo region, you never, in your own age group, this is not open, you really?
No, I've never. I missed. I remember we used to go to this Gilgandra knockout, and they'd pick the Possibles Probables team at the end of the Gilgandra knockout, and I remember sitting there, and they picked the Probables first, and I thought, I'm not much of a show in that, and then they picked the Possibles after that. First 13 got named, and I thought, not in there. Might be a show on the bench, and missed out on the Possibles team too for the Group 11 rep side. So
that is a remarkable story. That is very, very remarkable. Just before we move on to your Parramatta career, why Dubbo? Like, what is it about Dubbo? Dean Payne, Matt Burton, Isaiah Yeo, another premiership winning captain, yourself, and many others who I may have missed. David Peachey was down the road at Wellington. Luke Prittis from out that way. Mark Soden, Les Davidson, Bundy was from that way as well. Why? Like, what is it about it? Yeah,
mate. It's you go out there and then you love your sport, and that's what you spoke a little bit about my childhood, and but I think in the last period, the connection that, watching Isaiah and Birdo, there was those trailblazers. And I remember watching Dean Pay. He went to my school, and, went on to play NRL, and he was one of my idols growing up, playing Origin and watching him play, and but what the Panthers have done through that, transitioning those players through those years, watching Isaiah sort of come through and still living in Dubbo, going down and just training on a Friday night, doing blocks of pre-season, playing SG ball, and that real good way to transition them through, and just instead of just plucking them out of moving them away from home at a young age, and they've pumped so much time and energy into that area too. So to see that those guys get to develop, but just the love of the sport, like we spoke about before. I guess every kid has a crack at every different sport, but it's league in winter mainly, and watching the NRL. And I remember the old pre-season challenge used to come out to Dubbo, and they were the only sort of games you'd get to watch. I remember the Raiders coming out there and Big Mal leading them out, and I'm there watching them run onto my home ground, looking the size of them, going, look at these blokes, and then, but then you sort of get to meet, like Dean Pay and see those fellas, and it's been unreal just to watch, the next crop of boys, Isaiah and obviously Birdo and stuff as well, and heaps of young boys have gone down to have a crack at it through the system as well.
It's amazing. Do you remember your first time back to Dubbo after winning the premiership?
I don't specifically remember going back there after, but I do remember going. I got dropped from Origin a few times, so I remember actually going back. We had sort of some time off, and I just wanted to clear my head and get to Dubbo, just sort of go out there and cruise with mum and dad and hang with the family and stuff for a bit. And all of those moments, highs and lows, you sort of run back home to mum and dad and just to check in with them and stuff as well. I was actually a Bulldogs fan as a kid,
Wow.
My old man has gone. He's always wore, and he still does, wear Bulldogs footy shorts every day, pretty much every day of his life. So on my wedding day, actually, Mickey Butner, who played with us, he was the MC. He actually brought out some Bulldogs footy shorts and put them on over his suit pants, because he was like a fish out of water with the suit on, so he needed the footy shorts back on.
Mate, you make him. I'm thoroughly enjoying this chat, folks, and I hope you are, because this bloke's an absolute gem. Mickey Butner, who I played with also, I love his story. Now, if you can do this half your luck, he's in mint condition. I said, Butts, do you know what he does 100 times a day?
Yes, I sure do.
What does he do?
He does burpees every day.
Every day. So he said he was out on the sauce one night. He got home and he realised it's 11:30 and he's laying in bed. And he hadn't done his 100 burpees. Up he gets. He did it. Well,
I'm at -80. I've only done 20 today. I'm on the burpee train myself. Yeah. But
good boy.
Jumped off the back of it. But I only got 50 done yesterday because I had to go to the Bulldogs Para game.
Have you been doing the 100?
Yeah.
Oh, good on you.
I've been doing it for a while. But so I only got. I'm already in the red. I owe 50 from yesterday, and I've only done 20 this morning.
That's good. I love that. See, you're operating on the win-loss margin where you can owe it tomorrow. Let's get to Parramatta. So you get signed to Parramatta. Was there other clubs in the mix, or was that it?
Not really. I remember getting an opportunity to go for a trial at the Magpies, actually. I was in year 12 and I sort of went down to that country championship. I played for country schoolboys and stuff. But I remember at the time the Dragons sort of reached out and sort of said maybe come for a trial. And the Magpies at the time said Tommy Rodongnick has actually come out to Dubbo for a weekend. But but I definitely didn't have much interest, and I pretty much went for an open trial with the Para under-20s. Thankfully it was the open trial sort of day, so I got to go down there and have a trial, and they said come back for another trial, and then they sort of signed me on a 1-year deal for the Para under-20s. So.
Wow. So what was the big turning point then? So it feels like at this stage of your career, you're kind of just floating around, hanging in there, could easily get sent back to Dubbo, could maybe kick on. Was there something that happened, or was there a sliding door?
No, it probably still didn't happen for a few years after that, to be honest. And I remember going for that second trial. And
you just kept hanging in.
Yeah, they gave us a training shirt, shorts, and socks. And I actually said to me, mate, let's get the hell out of here, because that's all I just wanted some gear to strut around in Dubbo with. But I still didn't really believe until a couple of years in. Actually, my second year, so. Long story, but the first year played under-20s, and then they changed the age group to 19s in my second year in Sydney. So a lot of us, and I caught up with a heap of the boys yesterday, actually, a lot of us played for Kellyville Bushrangers in the Metro Cup. So because we were too old for 19s and we were missing out in reserve grade, we went back and played for the Kellyville Bushrangers in Metro Cup. So we actually made the GF, got beaten by Wentworthville in the Metro Cup Grand Final. But 30-year reunion coming up for the Kellyville Bushrangers.
Any notables in that team?
Yeah, well, Benny Galea.
Oh, Benny Galea.
Benny Galea.
He's a winner too, Benny.
Yeah, a few of the lads. But, so I sort of went back and played. I was an apprentice landscaper. That was my second year in Sydney. And at the end of this year, I'd injured my knee. My house got broken into. Just everything that I thought could go wrong went wrong. And I actually rang Mum and Dad at the end of that year and said, I'm out. I'm done. I'm moving home. And my old man said, yeah, okay, I'll go check, because I was doing landscaping. He said, I'll go speak to a landscaper and you can come back and finish off your apprenticeship. And then I actually I'd written off my car, so I had to go catch a bus into Parramatta to sign some medical forms because I just had an operation. And Peter Sharp, who was actually the reserve grade champion fella, former Newcastle man as well, he actually picked me up from this bus stop and said, do you want to lift home? I was, heading back, and he said, oh, mate, what's your plans for next year? And I said, I'm out, I'm sort of moving home. And he said, have you thought about giving it another crack? So I sort of went home that night, and I pretty much made a decision to go, So I went home that night, and I never really had any belief that I could sort of play NRL. I just thought I was floating around and making up the numbers, And then I spoke to Mum and Dad and had a good think about it and sort of started to go, have I really been giving, myself the best shot? And, we spoke about that fire burning, and I still remember moving away from Dubbo and a lot of people going, you won't make it. You can't even make Group 11. What are you even going for? And that sort of, all of those thoughts started to go through my head, and I went, you know what, I'm going to give it a crack. My best crack, train like nothing else, do everything I can in my power, and then if I don't make it, so be it. But fortunately, sort of that next year, fought my way into the reserve grade side, and we won the comp against the Tigers. And then I sort of got a NRL pre-season the year after and made my debut the year after that.
Was that against Pricey and
it was.
The late Jason Sinclair and Andrew Webster?
Justin Yeo, Isaiah's dad.
Justin Yeo.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. We saw clips recently of Josh Papali and his young bloke. They are clones. Isaiah and Justin are clones.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Great people. Yeah. Great people.
Great people.
So what year you reckon that was?
99.
99.
Yeah. So we played him in the GF in 99.
You keep making the hair stand up, Bobby. So this is 1999.
Yep.
And then going back to that bus stop, imagine if somebody hands you a picture of you as the premiership winning captain holding it up at Accor Stadium, and they said, mate, just stay at it because this is what happens in the next 5 or so years. Would you understand?
No, I couldn't even comprehend it.
Would you have not even believe that yourself?
No, I didn't even think NRL was an option, to be honest. All I was thinking at that time was, try and play a couple of reserve grade games or do whatever really then. And, Sharpie pumped that belief into him. I actually wrote him a letter. I ended up writing him a gratitude letter.
Did you?
Yeah, and sort of handed it to him just to say, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have. There was obviously a lot of people that mum and family and brothers, but if it wasn't for him to show that belief, I wouldn't be sitting here today. What
a great man, and he's had a tough ride as well, Sharpie. I love the bloke, absolute champion fella. Let's fast forward now, and you've been grafting away, and you didn't catch that bus and give it all up. You've stayed there, and now you're in a grand final, and it's the first grand final at the night time. So 2000 was the Broncos and the Roosters. A big day out there for the Broncos. 2001, the Olympics are now done and dusted, and the NRL moved to the first ever night grand final. You guys in 2001 are breaking every livable record. You're putting 60 up. I was part of a team who you put 60 on at Leichhardt Oval, and we just spent the whole day behind the posts, So it was an amazing year. What are your vivid memories of that year?
Yeah, it was a great year. Great blokes, all pretty young blokes. Like we had, from the era before, a couple of the guys had sort of Jared McCracken and Dean Pay, and I was lucky enough to play with Jason Smith in my first year of NRL. But, that 01 team, he obviously brought in some guys like Mickey Butner and JT, and Gary Larson was floating around, which, Oh,
Larso was in that team.
Larso was in around the team for that year. So, just great group of blokes, highly, skillful team. The way the boys had trained, and and it wasn't as if you were thinking about going in. We were just confident, like we were playing some good footy, enjoying each other's company. But I distinctly remember that day. that grand final week, it felt like everything was sort of, even going to the grand final breakfast, it all felt like there was so much happening. Like, not that you know what's going to happen on game day, but I just remember game day, it felt like it was real late. Like it felt like we were waiting until 10 o'clock at night just to kick off, you know. I just distinctly remember that because then next time around, when I got the next opportunity, I tried to embrace everything, and nothing was a punish. Enjoy everything and do all that stuff. But yeah, and you look at that. In hindsight, you look at that Knights team, a lot of them had played in grand finals and stuff already and been in big games already, So we were a young team and, obviously just got blown off the park from the get-go. And they were, freakish team. Joey, obviously BK and Billy Peden, tore us apart to start the game, and it's hard to believe the scoreline really in the end. I think it ended up being 30-24 or something like that, or 36-30 or something like that.
It was very close. I think it was 30-24, you're right. Brett Hodgson has a bit of a day out in the second half. Do you remember, like, the pre-game? Like, is there anything you'd personally change in that game?
I was always pretty processed, Smithy, the way he was very regimented, and we'd get there at these times and have and I actually liked that structure of, like, I structured my whole, and I continued to do that right through my career because it just got me on the right foot to preparation for games and stuff. But there's nothing that I can really, other than the experience, to be honest. Like, you can't, those big games, I'd already was lucky enough to play Origin that year, which I wasn't ready for in hindsight either. I got picked in sort of game 2 and then game 3. I'd only played sort of 20 or 30 games maybe at NRL. But, those big games came in a flurry. A few of us had all obviously played in semi-finals the year before in 2000, and that was my first experience in those ones as well. But, yeah, grand final, it's a beast, so you don't... Yeah, it was just the experience of it all, But like I said, when you get an opportunity to go again, like, it was a different feel for me. I was a little bit older, played in more semi-final series, a bit more first grade under your belt, So, albeit I had a different challenge coming into that next grand final as well. But yeah, just the experience of it all.
Brian Smith. Now, I have been coached by Brian Smith, and I kind of think that some of the criticism that he gets for maybe he's probably perceived as being too much of a control freak and too intense and all those sorts of things. And some of that could be true. I'm not quite sure. But you can't argue. I know he's not won a grand final, but he's been in a lot of big games. I regard him as a very, very good coach. Do you have any thoughts on Brian Smith?
Yeah, absolutely. I always spoke about us being young and stuff before. The things that he implemented around those times, like, it was... I had a really good change then to go to Canterbury, but the level of coaching and the details and everything that we got through that period, until I actually went elsewhere, I just assumed everyone got that. You know what I mean? Right. I thought this is what NRL is like. All of the information and details, and he taught us scenarios and the way we'd train, and I'm talking 2000 here, and putting music over the loudspeakers to try and distract, all of that stuff. Right. Like, he gave us, so much info and it helped me as a player right through my career. Well, I wouldn't have been an NRL player, obviously, anyway, if it wasn't for him and Sharpie giving me that chance. And but then I went to see a different way when I went to Canterbury too, the training and the work ethic, and theirs was a different style.
What suited you better? I know you win the comp at Canterbury, but
I think in the end, because I was be able to pump with a lot of that information through Smithy and the coaching and all of that. I think once I went to Canterbury then, like it gave me a different, a mix, we trained like nothing else. Like the pre-season was, I thought we trained hard at Para. We definitely trained hard, but I still remember going there for that first pre-season and I couldn't walk.
Brutal?
It was brutal, yeah. And they got harder and harder, and in season 2 we'd still train like nothing else as well, eat every week just to sharpen us up. So, but yeah, I think for my personal time, and Folksy, the style of coach that he was, he'd let you go. He wouldn't, after a few games, I went to him and said, mate, what's going on? Like, you haven't said much to me. And he goes, you don't want to hear from me. If you're going good, you're in the team. And that gave me that much confidence as well, And sure, he'd come and chip you on things and grab you here or there, but if you're winning games and you're doing all right, you're in the team, and set and forget sort of motto. So that suited me around that time as well. So which it was just a different style, but perfect for me through that middle part of my career, and then I was lucky enough to stay on as well.
What forced you? Because you had great success at Parramatta. Not forced you, it was your choice, but for you to go from Parramatta to an arch rival of Canterbury, salary cap implications had blown up in 2002 where they were conquering everything as well. How did that happen?
Well, at the time, Parra offered me a 1-year deal sort of at the end of 2002. So I just thought I'd sort of been playing NRL for a few years, so I just felt like I'd sort of earned the right to maybe get a 2-year deal at the time. And Canterbury basically said, we'll give you a 3-year deal. And they're, like you said, they're going on that run of, around that time when I was talking to them, they're going on that run of winning all those games and the best team in the comp. And they're going, what do you want me to come, what do you want me to come for 3 years for?
So you were chatting to them before it all blew up?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'd agreed to go, and then all of that sort of kicked off right towards the end of the season.
So when that kicked off, did you have concern about, am I still going there?
It was a little bit, yeah. But the club was really good straight away. They would sort of, try to reassure me that, hopefully everything will roll through and sort of did, and it did, But then what we ended up doing, because of that salary cap, all of us just agreed to take a 10% pay cut. So I sort of signed there for 3 years, and we all took a 10% pay cut to try and, cut some of the damage. And we all did that from that get-go in the 2003 season.
So when that happened, that's a big sacrifice from all the team. Did you kind of feel like we're going to get this done?
I just knew, obviously the team that I'd rolled into, they lost a couple of guys from the previous year. But, rolling in, they're the top, one of the top teams in the comp, So, and we fortunately didn't lose too many players from that. I think Paul Rahehe might have left heading into that 03 season as well. I don't think there was too many others. Willie Talau ended up sort of going halfway through the 03 season. He went overseas, I'm pretty sure, as well. So it wasn't as if we lost sort of 8 or 10 players out of that. Like the main team was still there, and I was lucky enough to go in and I sort of come off the bench most of the year. But folks, he had a plan of, because there was guys like Steve Reardon and Glenn Hughes and stuff were getting towards the end of the year, and his plan was for sort of a young back row to come through and learn off them and then hopefully transition into the team.
Geez, your halfback, I reckon he's one of the most underrated players ever in this game. He signed a 5-year deal, and the whole rugby league community blew up saying, why would you sign a bloke for 5 years? He doesn't get mentioned too often, so I'd love you to talk about Shifty Sherwood.
Yeah. Just a freakish talent, and at any he chases those big moments in games, and coming from a few of the blokes who are a bit more like chill a bit, measured stuff, he'd be like thinking all the time, like we've just defended sets in a row, and he'd be thinking get the ball and kick it to the sideline to try and, like he's thinking come up with those big plays all the time, at any tackle, kicking for those tries for Haz, and just his vision and his skill level, and, his kicking game was outstanding, and...
Before kicking games were truly appreciated, right? His was elite, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And I agree. I don't think probably because he didn't get those opportunities through that time to be able to play much rep footy either, with obviously the guys that was holding him out of the team, like Noddy and Joey and stuff as well, you know what I mean? So he didn't get those opportunities, but from playing alongside with him, like big plays, comes up with big moments and stuff as well. So, fantastic player. And unfortunately sort of he signed that deal and had a couple of injuries, and it really cost him, and then ended up sort of going overseas, and probably didn't see the best out of him towards the end as well.
Great player. So 2004, we're marching on and it's building, and you're kind of seeing this at the moment where I'm sure that gives you memories when the Bulldogs fans are up and about. It's about as good as anything. What was the prelim final?
We played Penrith in at the Footy Stadium.
Right. How did that go?
So we come from behind, but we ended up... Well, Pricey got injured.
So it wasn't clean sailing?
No. Well, we actually lost... We lost the first round of the semis. So the Cowboys beat us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the Cowboys in the first, and then we sort of had to... Because obviously we finished... Us and the Roosters were sort of 1 and 2, so we end up having to go a bit of a harder route to get it done, So end up playing Melbourne the next week at the Footy Stadium. Had a fair result there, and then we played the Panthers obviously they won the premiership the year before, and Pricey got injured 2 minutes into the game, so all of a sudden interchange sort of becomes an issue as well, but we end up sort of coming...
Were you captain that day?
No, so he was captain in the prelim.
No, but when he was off, did they anoint a captain that day or not?
Not really. Or I think that Scotty Campbell, he sort of come out and said, if there's
Soupsy,
if there's a decision to be made, between myself and I think Corey Hughes and Braith, but there was that much going on. It's a prelim final, we weren't sort of thinking too clearly, and we didn't know the severity, obviously, of the injury as well. We didn't even know if Bryce was come back on the field, and then. It was pretty clear early in that grand final week that he wasn't going to make it. And Folksy grabbed me, said, can you have a chat? And he said, mate, how do you feel about being captain this week? And I just dead set nearly fell over.
Wow.
And, because the
grand final.
Grand final.
Had you been a captain often before that?
The last time I was the only time I'd ever been captain previously was St John's Opens, and we got dusted in all 3 games.
Did you?
Yeah, so folks, you didn't know about my record.
You were 0-3.
0-3. And what made matters even more challenging, I guess, it was Freddie's last game. Yeah. So he was the opposing captain, so you're going in there to toss the coin against Freddie in his last ever game, and obviously a big game. We'd sort of had those duels for a couple.
So your last time for a coin toss, you're out there at Apex Park, maybe if it's a home game, for St John's Dubbo, and now you've got the great Brad Fittler against you.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was, she was a...
Do you remember if you won the toss or not?
No, I don't. I remember going in for the toss, but I can't remember if we won or not. But yeah, it was... I was going to say it was pretty easy that day, but I didn't think about it too much. It was just, I run out first and I got the team with me. It wasn't really like your captain. Yeah, I was, there at the end to be able to be part of the trophy presentation and stuff. But yeah, that honour to be able to run out on grand final day and be captain, standing captain on the day, it was, it just blows your mind.
So the great captain was 0-3. But in 04 was not going to be 0-4, folks. He went and got that trophy and won it. Remarkable. What's your most vivid memories of that day? Is there things where I think Haslam's still getting the ball down? I think he just got it down 5 minutes ago. But what's your most vivid memories?
I haven't watched the game back yet, but
you have not watched it back?
No, not yet.
No way.
Yeah, we will. I'll watch it at some
stage. What do you mean you will? It was 2004. That happened 21 years ago. You've not watched the grand final back?
Well, what my plan was, I thought, let's wait till the 10-year reunion. I'll try and get the boys together and we might watch it. And then sort of the 20-year one skipped by as well, so I haven't been able to. And then I thought, I'll get the family and the kids and that and we'll sit down and watch it. But we haven't done it yet. But I've seen bits and pieces of it right through. But I just remember, they had some attacking masters as well. Obviously, Freddie was playing for him. Chris Walker was he was playing on the wing, but he was buzzing around everywhere. Wingy, Minicello, like they had, and then you throw in the Luke Rickardsons of the world and Fitzy and all those, like they were a good team, you know what I mean? So I just remember.
And off a grand final loss too.
Yeah.
So they were motivated.
Yeah. And we had a heap of big battles in those couple of years. Like we were sort of in those top few teams for those couple of years and big clashes and obviously they had a lot of representative players and stuff. And I just remember defending our line. It felt like truckloads in that second half, like because they had all these little inside plays, and they actually scored a try in the game with Freddie did a reverse kick, and they scored a try. So, but I just remember for whatever reason we were just under the pump defensively, sort of on our line, heaps and heaps in that second half, and it was a pretty poor start to the game because there was a bit of rain just before the game and both teams made a couple of errors and stuff, whether it was a bit of nerves and all that too. But, I just remember them just attacking us and, that second half, and we sort of managed to hang on.
Obviously, you're big time in the conversation for the Clive. Willie Mason gets the Clive.
Yeah.
Was there anyone else who you think needs a better mention?
Mace was big. He ran the ball like nothing else. And but guys, there's someone like an Ogre I love playing with. He just leads the way every single time. He's a big game player, as well. So
he would have been big game off the field, was he?
Yeah,
he would have been great, I reckon.
He's a big game, everything. Yeah. No, he's a character, and he's great energy around the joint too. He hasn't changed a skerrick since the moment we met him.
Prodigious stallions, yourself and Ogre. How many kids between you have you got?
He's got a couple. I've got 4. So, but his boys are grown up, and they're But no, I spoke to him this morning, the big fella, actually, so he's going good. He does a lot in the Bulldogs pathways and helps out in the New South Wales Cup team and stuff as well. So it's good to still be around and do a bit. You were 0-3 as a captain before winning the premiership, but coaching State of Origin, these youngsters and so many superstars have come through under your tuition, 3-0. So you've coached New South Wales
20s 3 times and you've won the lot, or 3 years that is. Who's the one to watch out of all those?
Geez, it's we've been so fortunate. I just touched on Ogre. He's sort of been involved and he coached sort of before I did the last few years. But we've been in those pathways and watching the likes of Zach Lomax's and Birdo. I still remember when Birdo came in. He wasn't originally in the team in the 20s, and he came in and got man of the match in that as well.
Wow.
And similar to,
he wasn't in the team and then got in. It's amazing.
He ended up coming in and, scoring a try and lighting it up. And, the one that probably sticks out for me the most in the last few years is Ethan Strange. And, I watched him play again the other day, and the confidence level he is at the moment, for me, he's an Origin player down the track.
Wow.
Like I still remember speaking to him when he first, because it was umming and ahhing where he was going to play in positions or bench or what, because he was just one of them ones you want to get him in the side. And then we had an opportunity to put him in the centres, and I said to him, mate, how do you feel about playing centres on that side? And he goes, mate, I'd play front row. I don't care. I'll do anything. So. That moment there, nearly like he's your captain or he's one of your leaders, and he come out and just brained them, scored 3 tries, got man of the match, but he just came in and his leadership level in the side, and now being able to watch him playing NRL week in and week out, he's unstoppable. And I watched him play the other day, and he's that powerful, and it's so good to see.
You know what? In 5 years' time, if you look back and said, "Oh, Raiders won the comp," by then you probably would understand and go, "Oh yeah," because they had this Ethan Strange who's a megastar of the game, and they had this guy here and that guy there, and they're in the mix. Have you got a short list right now of who wins this comp? We're about just past the halfway mark of the season. What's your gut feel?
Well, I think I don't know if not everyone, but people maybe sometimes expect the Raiders to just fall over. But you look at teams that win the comp over time. Defensively, they obviously have to be good. So straight away, that puts the Dogs right in the mix. If they can come through this next little period, they've had a couple of hiccups with the changes in team and stuff. But defensively, it's most of the time that wins comps. But the next thing I look at is the mix of the balance in your team. And you talk about that Raiders side. You got Big Papa at that end of his career and experience and leadership, and then you've got Ethan Strange at this, but you've got some young just tearabouts and that light it up as well, So for me, you think of teams that have been successful over time, and you've got those young kids that have just burst into first grade and come in with all these confidence levels and enthusiasm, and you've got the experience to keep them grounded a bit when they need as well. And I feel like they've got some good punch off their bench in different in their hookers, in their bench as well. So, I can see them being there right at the end, You always keep thinking the Storm because of the class that they've got as well. So,
who do you see, though? I totally agree with your sentiment around the Raiders, and very much could be there. But really pressed, Bobcat, the 2 teams running out to experience what you did in 2004 and 2001. Who are those 2 teams going to be in your mind?
I think at the moment, right now, I still think it's. I think the Dogs can get. I think the Dogs can get there. Yep. I think they can get through this next little period, and I think the Storm, with their class players, if they can come through this Origin period and still be in a really good position and be healthy, I feel like they can. But it's just so all over the shop, isn't it? They've been the last month, the form of different teams and stuff like that. So, but for me, I think they're the couple with the Raiders are knocking right on the door for me.
Right there, 12 matches for New South Wales. That's a big career. Take us back to the first one and how you found out about that.
We played a game over at the Sharks, actually, and I got the call sort of driving home on a Sunday arvo.
From who?
There was the chairman of the New South Wales. I got a bit of it. Johnny Wilson, who you played.
Yeah, Wilson.
Johnny played. He ended up calling me out of the blue and said that this guy's looking for your number. He's on the board of the New South Wales, and ended up ringing me. And I was like, and then all of a sudden it just exploded. The team got picked, and what
you spoken about much? Like, were you a surprise pick, or were you were a surprise pick?
Yeah, I come from
right
because they got unfortunately the boys got beaten in the first game.
Yep.
So a couple of changes, and then I got picked for game 2. So off the bench in game 2, and then we ended up getting the win, and then we went up to Brisbane, and that's where a guy by the name of Alan Langer
Oh.
He rolled. I still remember being at home because I got picked for that game 3. It was my second Origin. And I still remember hearing over the wireless, hearing the team get picked, and it was like number 7, Alan Langer from the Warrington Wolves. And I was like, yeah, right. And so the big fella flew back in from, and we got beaten up there in game 3 up there. We got flogged actually. So, and then I sort of had a couple of years. I didn't get picked then for a couple of years after that. So, and then I came back into the side in 04. Yep. And then, Gus had us in 04 and then, yes, Ricky Stewart had us in 05. And
so 05, right? So 05, a similar Alan Langer story where another bloke comes back. Was that Joey when he came back?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Well, and this is, I touched on it before about being at Apex Oval, but we went, I still don't know why or how it happened, but that game too we went to Dubbo for a training camp. So we flew out to Dubbo and I'm training on Apex Oval with the crowd there, and Mum and Dad are sitting in the crowd watching us train. That's there. I don't know why. And we had it. I think it was bad. I think Trent Barrett might have hurt his quad because it was the first game was when Matty Bowen took the intercept.
Yes.
So they beat us. Yeah, unfortunately. So then game 2, I'm pretty sure Baz hurt his quad, and Sticky got us in the Apex Oval change rooms and said, thinking about bringing Joey in.
That was the reveal was in that where it all started at Apex, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then we're flown back, and you might have heard blokes tell a story about this session all the time.
You can make hair stand up, Bobby. You're a good storyteller.
But we flew back to Sydney, and we went and had our first session back when Joey came into camp, and it was at the Randwick Army Barracks. We had this train, mate. The best session I have ever been involved in my life.
Wow.
He was barking the crossfield kicks. It was like, and we walked. Everyone knew their role. The community. I've never seen a session go as well. And we walked off that training paddock and like a fair bit of confidence levels, And then, fortunately, we sort of got that. This is the 05 one. We got that game done in Sydney, won it there, and then flew up to Brizzy and to clinch the series.
Wow. I said you're a good storyteller, Bobby. I take that back. You've got a great story. You've got a great story. Let's talk about the green and gold. When you first get that, and currently, by the way, the incumbent Australian captain hails from Dubbo, Isaiah Yeo. Tell us about your first time.
Yeah, well, we just won the comp for the Dogs, and you just the emotions and everything obviously still happening, and then all of a sudden they pick the Australian side, and just pinch yourself, to be able to. I still remember watching those Test matches over in England. Watching that one, Mal Meninga and making the break, and Ricky Stewart, the dummy, and Mal scoring tries. I still remember watching those games, and then to actually pull that jersey on and to be able to, play alongside the calibre of guys. You just, you're dead set, pinch yourself, and to be able to go away, and play with those boys and, play in them big games. We were lucky enough to play in the final and stuff overseas. And, but just that first moment of standing there, the anthem and the jersey and your family and the people close to you being around, everyone talks about this, but being able to play New South Wales and test yourself in the furnace of it's the media, it's everything that comes with that. But then to play alongside those guys for Australia, the history, and to be able to pull that jersey on and what it means to stand there with that jersey on and have your family in the crowd, you just dead set pinch yourself.
Mate, remarkable story. There's another remarkable story building at the moment. It's a guy who was at the Melbourne Storm for a while, and they kind of say he's the one that got away. He's now starting for New South Wales. He's a Bulldog. Max King. What a great story he is.
Unreal. He's been through, you often hear about bouncing back and resilience, what he's managed to overcome. He had some injuries early in his career and obviously had to move around a little bit and sort of struggling to find a home in a sense of a club. And, come to the Bulldogs at a time and they weren't going well. Like, they were struggling in first grade, but he just stuck to the task. And, to see the transition of the club the last couple of years back to where they belong, and then for him to get that opportunity and watch him play, and geez, he was good. Just did his job. He was outstanding in that first game. Didn't look to overawed at all, and now, unfortunately for Barnett, it's a huge loss and so disappointing for him. But to see him get a starting spot, it's a great reward for him.
What do you make of the two teams? Tommy Dearden takes the 7, and he himself had a tough ride. So I think he may have won one of his first 30-odd NRL games as a halfback, and now he's the Queensland halfback. So he's gone the long road. Any fears about this Queensland side, or you're very confident?
I still think New South Wales can win at their best, but I can't see Queensland being. They have to improve from game one. They were off the pace a little bit in game one. They've made some changes, so obviously it's a time they need to do it. And I feel like that combination is a dangerous one. That having obviously Dearden in the 7 shirt now, controlling the team. That they'll be dangerous. They'll be obviously right up for this. They're under the pump a little bit at the moment, Queensland. So. How good's Origin time?
Oh, mate, it's great. Okay, let's have your final say on that. What's the second score line? Who's man of the match? Who do you see popping one over for a meat pie?
Oh, let's go. I'm going New South Wales anyway. I'm going New South Wales. I'm going to say, even though I think Queensland improve, I'm still going to say 22-14 New South Wales.
Bit of a fight, yep.
Yeah, and I feel like... Let's go with Critter.
Stephen Crichton, man of the match.
Yeah.
And to score.
Yeah.
Okay. Bobcat, mate, we appreciate this. Before we let you go, though, I'd love to know what you're doing these days. You're sporting very proudly the Mark Hughes Foundation beanie. Hughesy and the team doing a wonderful job there. Do you want to give that a plug?
Yeah, absolutely. Wherever we can support it, live locally up in Newcastle, but the time and energy and care that they put into the foundation, they've changed lives, and what a special human. They're always fundraising and people out there. So whatever we can do in a small way to promote that. But yeah, fortunate I live in Newcastle these days. I get to coach locally at South Newcastle there. I work for a company called Nova Skill up there doing business development, apprentice mentoring, and still part-time with the Bulldogs, do some pathways stuff up through the North Coast and in those regions as well. So, I owe the game of rugby league everything, and I'm still hanging around. They can't shake me yet. So,
mate, the game owes you plenty. Don't worry about that. This has been a very enjoyable chat for myself, folks. Hopefully, you've appreciated it as well. An absolute doyen, icon of the game, Andrew Bobcat Ryan. Thank you for joining the Legend Series on Get 'Em Onside. Good on you, Bobby.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well done, mate. Can't wait for the next one.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.